All right, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on Bitcoin custody for businesses. We appreciate the time that you took to come out here and hear what we have to say about some custody, multi-sig custody for businesses specifically. I am David Layton, the Director of Concierge and Business Lead. I'm joined with Tyler Campbell, our VP of Concierge and Technical Lead. Today, the topic of discussion, of course, is Bitcoin custody for businesses. If you already know about Unchained, you probably know that the core of everything that we do is built around collaborative custody, specifically 2 of 3 multi-signature vaults, multi-signature wallets. We call them vaults. What you may not know is that we also have a trading desk available in 45 states and counting. Our services also include lending, Bitcoin collateralized loans, our Bitcoin IRA, our inheritance protocol for key succession, concierge onboarding. That would be Tyler, myself, members of our team doing one-on-one video guidance for the setup of multisig, and Unchained Signature, which is a private client service. Through these services, we have over the years become the leader in custody for Bitcoin businesses. Before we talk about the specifics of multisig, of self-custody in general, we want to take a step back and just talk about why Bitcoin at a high level. So I'm going to toss it over to Tyler to talk why Bitcoin.
Awesome. So thank you, David. Now, broadly speaking, if you're watching this video, you're watching us here today, we know why Bitcoin. That's why we're in the room or in front of the computer screen. But as we think deeper about Bitcoin custody for businesses specifically, I think it helps to build the case for why Bitcoin, so we can have this foundation to talk further about custody models and securing that Bitcoin, and what the most appropriate and best way to secure your Bitcoin as a business is. So to start with why Bitcoin, well, we really want to kind of draw on, okay, what assumptions do we want to hold constant? Well, we know that a long-term store of value is necessary. Inflation is back. The bond market has turned bearish. Real estate has been turning a corner. We know that there's a need for a long-term store of value. This is underscored almost by the fact that government debt to GDP is the highest it's been since World War II. We have this quote here from Adamant Research, Tor de Meester's firm, kind of noting this and accompanied by this graph. This is not the Bitcoin price on a log scale. This is actually the government debt to GDP ratios for G7 countries. And so when you think about this alarming rate of money printing, what do we need? What is the world economy in dire need of? And that is a long-term store of value asset, which we're fortunate enough to have with Bitcoin. And so, Bitcoin being so young and so new, in the broad scheme of things, it has such a small overall market cap. You compare it here to the real estate market, the bond market, it's so incredibly tiny. And so the potential for this long-term store of value to grow in overall size is just phenomenal. So if you're a business looking for that long-term store of value asset, you've made that choice, that Bitcoin is that choice for you. You want to think now, okay, we have our fundamental base case and our reasons for purchasing Bitcoin and taking a position in Bitcoin. How do we want to think about securing that Bitcoin? What are the appropriate models for us to use? So that leads us to, okay, well, you hear a lot in Bitcoin, not your keys, not your coins. What does that mean? So this next section I'm just going to touch on briefly before I turn it over to David. Why do you hold your own keys? What's the alternative? The alternative is the existence of a counterparty. Within recent months, maybe the past 12 to 24 months, we've seen prime examples of why counterparty risk is, not the ideal solution for your long-term store of value asset. And it extends beyond just the past 12 to 24 months. Even this summer of 2023, at the time of this recording, and over the past year, we've seen prime examples of counterparties in the industry just really not holding true to what they may be marketing or displaying to the broad market, as they want to be shown or displaying themselves as a secure place for your Bitcoin. But we know that that's just not true. There are scams, there are hacks, there's just gross negligence, and not even in the quote unquote crypto industry, but actually in just the traditional finance industry as well. I would say Q1, Q2 of 2023, we've seen the likes of Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, Prime Trust. These institutions are crumbling. We need to be looking now towards, okay, what's the next What's the better option here? And it turns out there actually is a much, much better option. So I also want to take a second to note and also highlight an Unchained webpage and a research report is unchained.com/hacks. We actually show not just the scams and the gross negligence, but actually just hacks. Crypto, quote unquote, crypto exchanges, including Bitcoin, over the years have amounted to almost $4.3 billion worth of hacks that occur, right? And so these counterparties are at technological risk of getting hacked. So counterparty risk, how do we avoid it? Well, the answer is that we hold our own keys. And that's going to best set us up for success over the long term. The image you're looking at here is another Unchained research resource for you. We refer to it as the HODL caves. It is actually the amount of time spent holding Bitcoin. Over the long run, you see the returns of the Bitcoin you hold growing. A chart like this is really, really interesting, kind of underscores the importance of that long-term store of value thesis that you have as a Bitcoin holder. So you couple that with, okay, I know Bitcoin is the best resource to hold for the long term, but I know that counterparties such as exchanges and banks aren't the best solution for the long term. Where do I turn? And that's what we're going to really be getting into today. So with that, I kind of want to ask David, well, we know that holding our own keys is important because we put the hacks on display, we put the counterparty risk on display. If keys are important and I'm a business, well, how do I hold my own keys? David, can you help me out with answering that question?
So one of the places I like to start here, one of the greatest misconceptions about Bitcoin is that it might live on a device or on an exchange, but Bitcoin actually lives in an address on the Bitcoin blockchain. And there are several different types of addresses or groups of addresses that we refer to as wallets. The first one would be single signature. So the image that you see here on the screen is an example of a single hardware device, hardware wallet, a representation of a single signature address. This is a Bitcoin wallet that is accessed by a single key, and Bitcoin is controlled unilaterally by that key holder. The seed phrase, or that human readable version of the private data that can move Bitcoin, it is a single point of failure. In a single signature address, the Bitcoin is secured by one key. That key holder is the only person that can control it, and that the backup for it is in and of itself a single point of failure. This, of course, is not ideal for businesses or for trust environments. The next step in custody here is going to be multisig. So multiple signatures is what multisig is short for. This is going to be a Bitcoin wallet that is accessed by multiple keys. So an example would be a 2 of 2 or a 2 of 3. If you hear about us talking about these 2 of 3 multi-signature wallets, that means that it is built using 3 keys, and any 2 of those 3 can move the Bitcoin from that multi-signature address. The Bitcoin is controlled by the quorum, of course. In a 2 of 3, it's going to be 2 would be the quorum. And this increases fault tolerance and ensures that no key can potentially be a single point of failure. This kind of leads to one of the points that we always try to drive home, that complexity is the enemy of security, or at least it can be. And when you set up a geographically distributed 2 of 3 multi-signature wallet, and the geographic distribution, of course, is with the private key data and the recovery seed data, that's about as secure as you can get with any sort of multi-sig setup. If you're adding additional keys or other elements that can otherwise be secure, like passphrases or complex pins or decoy information, you are effectively increasing the complexity of your setup, but not necessarily increasing the security. So the sweet spot that we recommend for businesses and trusts and individuals, honestly, is going to be that 2 of 3 collaborative custody. Here is a great graphic that shows that is a visual representation of what a single signature wallet might look like and a multi-signature wallet. So on the left, you have the single signature, which is the wallet and associated addresses that were constructed by and controlled by the one key. On the right, you have a multi-signature. This would be a good example of a unchained multi-signature vault or multi-sig wallet, and that is built using 2 keys that belong to the client or the business, and 1 key that belongs to Unchained. And it's very important to note that the way that the private-public key relationship works is you can actually construct a single signature environment, the image on the left side, and a multi-signature environment, the image on the right side, with one of those keys being the same one that's associated with both of these environments. A single key can be used for single sig and multi-sig.
I think that's actually a really, really important point, because what it means for you as a business or as an individual, right? If you already have, examples of these hardware wallets or signing devices, as David was just talking about, you don't need to go buy or purchase new devices and have to worry about obtaining a bunch of new hardware in order to engage in multisig. It's really, really powerful. It's a powerful aspect of the way public keys and private keys work, to David's point. And so let this be the start of your rabbit hole learning about this. I think it is really, really important to underscore that fact, just so you don't have more burden on yourself as a user.
That's a great point. So this brings us to our next section here. We already kind of highlighted collaborative custody, what that is, just having a third party like Unchained provide one of those three keys. We're going to dig into a little more granular view of collaborative custody for businesses and trusts. All right, the image that you're seeing on the right here is a visual representation of an Unchained vault. And similar to the treasure chest image in the last page, you can see that the Unchained vault is built using three keys. Two of them belong to the client, the business or the trust, and the third one belongs to Unchained. Any two of those three keys can provide signatures or permissions to unlock the Bitcoin from its corresponding multi-signature address. What this brings to the end user or the business entity that has constructed this multi-signature collaborative custody multi-signature vault is maximum security that you can control with a trusted partner to guide you. That's where Unchained comes in. We can even get on a video call and help you. The one-on-one calls we were talking about is helping you to set up those devices and construct these environments step by step. What you also get is peace of mind and complete control over your funds. Zero single points of failure, because if a device or corresponding seed phrase was to break or go missing, or somebody had compromised it entirely, that's still not going to gain a potential attacker access to your funds or mean that you lose your Bitcoin in any way.
When we say zero single points of failure, it's really also important to note that Unchained, right, your partner in this, your collaborative partner in this setup, even if what we refer to as a doomsday scenario occurs, Unchained goes down, the website's down, this is Bitcoin multisig. This is built into the Bitcoin protocol. If you hold your own keys, there is a structure such that you could go and rebuild your treasure chest, your multi-signature vault, in a different Bitcoin wallet software. You don't need Unchained.com. You could go to Caravan or Sparrow or these other open source solutions, and that really does make it incredibly powerful.
That's a great point. And that's also something that we like to guide clients through as we are bringing them through the onboarding process to multisig, which can be complex and technical. We like to go through all of those steps. If that proverbial doomsday scenario does occur, what happens if you cannot access Unchained.com? You still have full unilateral access and control over your multi-signature wallet, even if we disappeared. All right. So one of the primary features and benefits of using a trust or business account specifically is going to be the approver quorums. What we have constructed is backwards and sideways compatible with the Bitcoin protocol itself, meaning you can access this Bitcoin using something like Sparrow or Caravan. So what we have done with Unchained.com is added additional layers of security in the form of approver quorums. So if you have three keys that have constructed this wallet, two of them you control, but you have 5 members or 10 or 15 members of your business, you can actually set that approver quorum to 5 of 7, say, where 7 members of the business have access to the business account. You only need the 2 key signatures to move Bitcoin, but at least 5 of the 7 members need to give their approval in the Unchained platform in order for that Bitcoin to move. So that is very important to note, because it gives you the security and the reduced complexity of 2 of 3 multisig, while giving you the option of having 5 or 7 or 15 members of the business giving their say in whether or not the Bitcoin can actually move. We're actually going to switch over to a platform demonstration right now. So I'm going to demo what the approver quorums look like and how the functionality of the multi-signature wallets looks at Unchained.com. And then we will move on to a Q&A. All right, so welcome back. We are at the demo section of our presentation here for Bitcoin custody for businesses. What you're seeing here is the dashboard of your Unchained.com business account. The first thing that I wanted to cover is going into the section of the platform where you can add and manage your members. Under here, under account settings, you can go to manage users. And as you can see in this account, we have 5 members of this account. Now, the account creator, which was me, can go into the other members on an account and change the role. So I'm just going to navigate to the role section, and you can see all of the different options that we have here. So the founding member is also an owner over the account that has full control over adding members, removing members, and changing some of the permissions that the other members of the account would have. Admins can author transactions, they can provide signatures, and they can also be an approver over a transaction. The approvers, they are limited to viewing the account, logging in and accessing, and just reviewing the balance and reviewing transactions, but they can also apply an approval to a transaction. So earlier when I was referring to that hypothetical 5 of 7 members need to approve a transaction, anybody from the approver role and up have the ability to make those approvers. Finally, you have a viewer, and the viewer would be saved for someone like a controller or maybe a CFO that didn't want to approve transactions. They want to be able to view the account. They want to be able to download transaction history and see the balance of the account, but they don't necessarily need to author transactions, broadcast transactions, or approve transactions. So here, with our 5 members, everybody has a unique role. There is an owner, a viewer, approver, admin, account creator, and that leads us to the approver quorums. So because there are 4 people on the account that are approver or higher, I can set the quorum size to, let's go here to 4 of 4. So now all 4 people that are approver or higher will need to sign off on that transaction. When a transaction within this account is authored, which is what we're going to do next, an email is sent out to everybody who has that role of approver or higher. They will then log in and give their approval or sign off on that transaction being able to be broadcast. So along with those 2 signatures needed to move the Bitcoin, all 4 approvals are needed as well. For the sake of this demo and being able to send the transaction, I'm going to actually reduce the quorum size down to 2, just so I can go and get 2 approvals, and then we can send the transaction here. The next step is to go into the vault itself. A vault is our terminology for multi-signature wallet. You can create as many vault environments as you'd like. Here in this business account, we have the operations, which is funded, and then we have the treasury vault. So in this example, operations are already paid for. We have a little extra cash flow sitting in that wallet, and we want to sweep what's remaining in operations over to the treasury vault. I'm going to go over to the transfer button here, and I'm going to select the treasury vault. And this is the beginning of authoring the transaction. So the first step is saying, where do I want the Bitcoin to go? I want it to go into the other vaults, the treasury vault. So I say next. The next part of authoring the transaction is saying, how much Bitcoin would you like to send? We're going to do a max withdrawal. And the next step here is to choose the fee rate. So high priority fees are sitting around 15 sats per byte. I'm going to select this option. This should get us into the next block. All right, I'm going to go next here. So the Who Should Sign page is showing all 3 of the keys that were used to construct this multi-sig vault. If for any reason I could not get to the CEO key, I could unselect the CEO key and select Unchained. This would then start the process of still needing to get the approvals from anybody who has that role within the account, but it would also send a message to Unchained, and we would go through the process of providing a signature with our key. We do have the CEO key and the CTO key, so I'm actually going to select both of those and select next here. So this is the transaction summary. That authoring process is now complete, and we are going to create the transfer where we can get our signatures. Next step is getting a approval from the next person in the account, or from somebody else in the account that has that role. And we got the second approval from Tyler here, and now we can go through the signing process with the CEO key. So the CEO key is on a Trezor. I have my Trezor plugged in, and I'm going to follow the steps on screen to get a signature from the private key that lives on this Trezor, which is the CEO key. So here we go, unlocking it. Here we go. Over to Trezor.io, where we are going to perform the signature for this transaction with the CEO key, and the transaction is loaded onto the screen here. So obviously very hard to tell, but it's giving me transaction details. The first detail is the destination address, then it covers fees, and says, are you sure you would like to send this amount? And there we go. So this brings us back over to Unchained. Now all we need is a second key. This is the CTO key that I now have plugged in. I'm going to go through those same steps that I went through with the first key on this one. I'm seeing the address, and you always want to confirm that the beginning and the end of the address looks exactly like the address that is in the initial transaction when you authored it. I'm going to select continue. I'm going to confirm that amount, and I will hold to confirm on the Trezor device. So that is the second signature. All that's left now, since we have gotten our approvals needed to send the transaction, and both of the signatures, is just to broadcast the transaction. So I will do that here. And now that transaction broadcast is a success. That went to the mempool and is getting organized with hundreds of thousands of other transactions right now to be added to the next Bitcoin block. We should see final settlement within the next 10 minutes or so.
Let's go back to this main vault page, just so we can see in this operations vault, we do see that a transaction is in progress. The withdraw button and transfer button are grayed out while this transaction is being confirmed on the network. Do want to note out there for advanced business operations or for potentially mining businesses, we do now support the functionality for you to withdraw not just to one address, but to multiple addresses. You can actually just upload a CSV file, a spreadsheet of maybe it's your investors or the LPs of your business and you want to pay them out. You can send to multiple outputs from your Unchained vault. So when you select withdraw, instead of transfer, so not moving over to another vault within your account, but actually just withdrawing to a third-party address, you can choose to move between a single address, sending Bitcoin to a single destination, or multiple addresses. And you can upload a spreadsheet of multiple destinations. Like I said before, maybe it's your LPs, maybe it's individuals within your, maybe your vendors that you need to be paying, that sort of thing.
All right, so that concludes the demonstration of the platform, and now we are going to move on to the Q&A. We collected some great questions ahead of time, and we have a few of them here. Tyler, go ahead and grab that first one.
I'll grab the first one. So we have a question coming in. Can I legally title my Bitcoin to my trust? Which is kind of a perfect question. Yes, you can. You do need a trust account within Unchained. So you'd sign up for a trust account, build a multi-signature vault, much like we kind of displayed what a vault looks like today. But any Bitcoin sent to that multi-signature vault would be legally titled to your trust, which does make inheritance a whole lot easier. We do certainly support that. Now, a really nice thing when it comes to trust accounts and business accounts at Unchained, you don't need to get a separate, email address and password and a completely separate account structure. If you already have a personal account at Unchained, you can just tack on a trust account or a business account or an IRA to that. Just to do that, you can scroll to the bottom left of your Unchained account. You're just going to select Add Account from the navigation menu, and that's going to walk you through the entire process.
And that actually leads into the next question that we have here. I have an individual account with Unchained. I would like to set up a trust. Can I use the same two keys or devices? So absolutely. That's actually a very strong recommendation that we make, is to use the same two hardware wallets or devices and the corresponding keys across different types of accounts. So if you have an individual account and you have a Trezor and a cold card that you use to set that up, well, you've already gone through the process of generating those private keys, backing up the corresponding seed phrases. So you have 4 pieces of information to protect and secure. Instead of having 8 pieces of information to secure, or 12 if you had 3 different types of accounts, you want to just use those same 2 hardware devices. And the way that we are able to, or that you are able to do that, is by changing the derivation path. That gets a little bit technical, but that, of course, is what our team is here for as well. If you go through the onboarding process, we can show you how to generate a new unique XPub or extended public key from the same device or same corresponding private key on that device.
I see a question here. It says, you covered the approver quorums. Does that mean that a 5 of 7 approval would be needed in Sparrow wallet? So it's a great question. So as David was mentioning before, the approver quorums are really just an application layer that we're doing within the Unchained environment. So at its core, the multi-signature vault for the business is still a 2 of 3 multisig. So if you were to, in an emergency scenario, need another software like Sparrow or Caravan, it would still just be a 2 of 3 vault. That approver quorum would not be transferred over to another wallet software. That is only within Unchained, but that's a great question.
There's a question here about additional vaults within a business account. So yes, you can create as many vaults as you want inside of the same business account or individual account for that matter. You do not need to go through that process of changing derivation paths or anything technical. You can just create like the demonstration that we gave showing the operations and the treasury vault. You can continue to make as many of those as you would like. But it's important to note, if you have an account with multiple vaults or multiple multi-sig wallets, you want to download the configuration file that Tyler was referring to that would allow you to reconstruct those addresses and revisit that wallet in an outside application like Sparrow or Caravan. Each individual vault is going to be unique, where it has all unique configuration file information like the XPubs and the derivation paths that correspond to that specific vault. So yes, as many vaults as you want, just make sure you download the wallet configuration file for each of them.
Yes, every vault has a backup file. More information on all that technical information that David just covered can be found again at help.unchained.com. We also have other YouTube resources on our YouTube channel and shorts, keeping it under 5 minutes or less, where members of our concierge team, David and I's colleague Tom Honzik, talks about this stuff in depth. You've maybe heard some of those terms, UTXO or wallet configuration file or XPub. What does it all mean? Certainly head over there as a learning resource. That does wrap it up for our Q&A today. I think that was an excellent round of questions and answers for our presentation. Our business accounts, I encourage you to check it out. If you own a business, you're thinking about holding Bitcoin for the long term, because it's a long-term store of value asset, please head over to unchained.com and check out more information. David and I are also here to help.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.